Namaste. Welcome to another edition of Navimash podcast. So today again we are back with another interesting and very important topic that we need to discuss. All of you might have heard about the unfortunate demise of Charlie Kirk, who was killed uh, by a by a gunman in America. So we thought, okay, let's discuss. So why Charlie Kirk was killed? What was the motivation for this? So we have Mr. Dr. Bijeet Prasantha with us to talk about this and discuss the theological, maybe the sociological reason behind this heinous act of violence. So Dr. Bijeet da, namaste.
Namaste.
And to audience, to everybody, if you want to discuss this topic with Vijita as well, so I would request admin to post that podcast link on the members only post, so that members who want to discuss this very important topic, they can discuss with Vijita and me at the end of the show. So do stay tuned to the podcast, and we will have you with us to share your points of view. So Vijita, over to you.
Sure. So,
Yes.
can you hear me? Can you hear me
Yes,
properly?
yes, I can hear you properly, and we also have Anand with us, actually saying it's a very controversial topic we are talking about. Yes, but it's an important topic that we have to discuss. So I will now hand over the stage to Bijitda. He will be talking about this for next maybe 20 to 30 minutes, or whatever is the
Sure.
time, and I will be in the backstage. We'll be taking care of the chats. So Bijitda, over to you.
Sure. Thank you. Right. So, definitely, this is a very controversial topic, primarily because we are here talking about some unfortunate shooting incident. Um, uh, you can call it political killing. And it is the political killing of this right wing conservative sort of celebrity who is Charlie Kirk and who supported the right wing conservative movement through some organization that he co-founded, and he was the CEO of Turning Point USA, and he sort of ran this right wing conservative movement in the USA. He used to reach out to university students, the youths, along with Vivek Ramaswamy, for example, people like Vivek Ramaswamy. So he used to reach out to the university students. He used to interact with them to convince that the right wing conservative politics is the is how much is the necessity of that kind of politics in the USA. And he also supported Donald Trump as a presidential candidate from the Republican side. And obviously, I mean, this guy did play a huge role in 2020, and I mean 2016. He started very pretty earlier, and then also in recently in 2024 election, right? In sort of helping Donald Trump to sort of put out his political points, and also some, you may call it some theological or some sort of conservative spiritual point that actually led to Donald Trump being elected as the president of United States in 2024. So this is Charlie Kirk, and his radical right-wing conservatism, and I'm going to explain why I'm calling it radical. But yes, so definitely to begin with, it is a very contentious topic, very so to say controversial topic, and we are probably going to go one notch further than the main course discussion that is going on around. And you know what are the point of discussions already from various media. Okay, so the main sort of main course discussion is basically ki, okay, this is a political killing, and it is basically the radical left wing in USA who actually whose sort of violent rhetoric led to this sort of political assassination of Charlie Kirk. And this is the mainstream sort of argument that has been around. Other than that, there are other points as well, which I'll gradually try to discuss, and it will be unfolded in this whole sort of monologue here. Right, and we are going to go beyond the this mainstream discussion, in the sense that we are going to ask a very fundamental question: whether this is a political killing, or I mean, whether was a political bigotry, political killing, or this was a theological bigotry that led to this sort of unfortunate incident. And probably that is this sort of bigotry is going to play a role in shaping up the future of the United States. Right. So to start with, you know that I'm going to start with the Second Amendment of the United States. So I think after the independence in 1776, मतलब जिसमें गोरों को गोरे से independence मिला. I don't know, मतलब uh, at least if we are having a bird's eye view, it is what it is. कि गोरों को गोरे से independence मिला, pretty much, because already these Goras in United States, after they reached there, I think in 1498, they already started the institutionalized sort of genocide of the Red Indians in the American subcontinent. But anyway, in 1776, when USA got independent, then soon after they started, like they formalized a constitution, and then they gradually put a few amendments, right? And the Second Amendment is important in the context of this discussion. And the Second Amendment says that, so it basically gives United States the right to possess a gun. Okay, so the Second Amendment reads that a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, so here what is going on? Um, so the United States is basically advising its citizens to possess, to keep and sort of possess arms, right? Arms in the forms of guns, um, and I mean, pretty much everyone knows that it has become a, I mean, mass shooting has become an epidemic, at least in the modern U.S. history. I mean, post. I mean, at least in this century, it has gone to a very high level, to the extent that almost every day of a year, you will hear some incident coming from USA about the mass shooting. So, but people are now talking about, at least in the from the Democrat side, some people are actually talking about some gun control, sort of legalize some sort of, come up with some sort of gun control law in order to sort of regulate this right, and so to say, to as a step ahead to sort of control the gun violence in the United States. So this is the Second Amendment. And then basically the Republican, which is the right conservative side of the United States, they are actually saying ki, because we have Second Amendment, you cannot snatch away that right from a common citizen. We have been having guns for a very long time, and we are going to possess guns, and the state cannot dictate us to submit our guns or our arms. Okay, it is our fundamental right, as if, and there are very many controversial sort of comments. One of the controversial comments actually came from Donald Trump, I think before the 2016 election, and where he sort of indicated towards some assassination. I mean, some sort of political violence on Hillary Clinton, and then who was probably the presidential candidate from the Democrat side, and he indicated that Trump indicated that, hey, it's our Second Amendment. as if you want to take away guns from the US citizens, something you know, unforgiving or something uncalled for can happen to to even the presidential candidate herself. So that was one controversial comment of Donald Trump to Hillary about the Second Amendment. And then Charlie Kirk, about whom we are talking right now. So this prominent conservative commentator and founder of Turning Point USA. So he was actually a very vocal advocate of the Second Amendment and gun rights. And so there was an event by the conservatives in April 2023, and it was organized by this Turning Point USA in Salt Lake City, Utah. So Utah is the same state where he got shot a couple of days ago. But this event was in April 2023 in Salt Lake City, Utah, where he controversially stated that, quote, I think it is worth it. I think it is worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God given rights. So basically, he was saying ki, okay, there are some gun violence which are happening around in the USA, but it is unfortunate, but it is as if necessary. It is worth it because this Second Amendment is actually necessary in order to protect other fundamental rights, which as per him was a God given right. What was were the set of God given rights. So he was basically saying that we need the Second Amendment, the right to possess arms at the individual level, so that the common people, the Aam Aadmi, can protect their other rights. Okay, so and even if it is at the cost of losing a few individuals due to gun violence, due to this regular gun violence, it is worth it. Okay, so this is what he said on April 2023, right? And then a couple of days ago, uh, he actually proved it by sort of himself getting shot. Okay, we still don't know what was the political idea of the criminal, of the shooter, or maybe it is not out there yet. So that obviously the state would not want to, I mean, be explicit about the political and other sort of association of the shooter, because they don't want a civil war in the United States. But this is what was going on. This is what Charlie Kirk and other right-wing conservatives were vocal about, right? Um, anyway, it is to say that, okay, so the right-wing conservative were very much vocal about the protection of Second Amendment, but it is not like the left liberal, even the early colonizers frequently killed each other. It was a regular thing. They have forgotten their barbaric history. Right, right. And yeah, so the one thing that I was also going to add up to this point, which is that okay, the right wing conservatives were very much vocal about this, but it is not that it was not getting any support, or at least passive support from the left liberal, or at least from the Democrat side. Okay, and obviously the gun lobby in the US is huge. They have huge amount of money, and if in United States, I mean, all these industry and all these people, right? These bourgeois people, they also have a lobby directly in the parliament. So because of that lobby, probably this Gun Regulation Act did not pass through, and did not it did not it could not be implemented in the United States. So yeah, so this is the fact on which we are going to sort of expand our argument, which is that in USA, individuals have the right to possess guns and arms, and sometimes it is actually far more easier to get a gun than to get a cigarette. Okay, for example, and I mean, if you really go to some stores, If you ask for a cigarette, they probably will ask you for your ID, to show your ID. But if you want to go to get a gun, there are many occasions, at least in the neighborhood and other areas, where they are not going to even ask you for your ID, because it is a profitable business, right? And everyone knows it. Okay, so this is the fact, the Second Amendment, and in US there is huge debate going on around them. Now, obviously, in the whole, I mean, whatever, like we have spent 10 minutes in this discussion, and again and again, what I'm trying to sort of convey to you is there is this radical left and also radical right conservative side. The right wing conservative is pretty much pro Christian, right? Pro sort of religious, and they want to ban abortion, and all these issues are there. And then there is this radical left, which is sort of radical liberal side. So in that radical left include, for example, yeah, they are, uh, what do you say? So they are pro-abortion, so to say. They are against sort of this, um, by large, they want some gun control law or these kind of things. They, and the extreme side of um, the radical left is called Antifa. So what is Antifa? Antifa, and then so Antifa is basically anti-fascist. So just like basically they are saying ki the radical left, almost extremist side, the Antifa, they are claiming ki because there is this Trump and radical conservatism, which is sort of killing the spirit of freedom and everything, and freedom of speech, expressions, and they are diluting the sort of liberal value of the United States, and it is almost ki Donald Trump is imposing fascism on the country, and uh, they have to have some violent, aggressive fight against this fascist imposition by Donald Trump, and by large uh, by the conservative side, right? By the Republicans. So this is Antifa. In the radical right wing conservative, you have organizations like KKK. KKK, again, KKK is very much right wing conservative in the sense ki, so some, at the very extreme scenario, they are promoter of, let's say, slavery. Okay, they are promoter of other radical Christian conservative ideas, and it is a fact that there are states like, for example, Virginia, right, where they have so much authority that they can decide who can walk on a beach and who cannot. Okay, it is to that extent. Very much like anti inclusivity, anti-tolerance, anti-black in a way. So this is basically KKK, which is a radical right-wing conservative wing or organization. So what I'm trying to say here is that in USA, individuals have guns, and then you have these radical left and radical right wing with their most extreme sides who believe in utmost violence. Okay, so which means ki due to this, and in USA these are the two main parties. I mean, it is sort of a bi-party democracy, right? There are only two-party democracy where these two wings have sort of huge polarity in context to each other. So because of this bipolarity, because of this schism in ideology, because of this partition, right, in US politics, uh, the political consciousness of the country becomes very much schizophrenic. What I mean by this is, so election happens every 4 years. I would define KKK white nationalist, collectivist, populist, not right wing. I mean, in USA, we pretty much know that they what they support and what kind of politics they support. they don't support Democrat for sure. So if we I mean, in USA, it is sort of there are two main wings, right? One is the Democrat and one is Republican. So from that context, I'm trying to say that okay, this KKK is pretty much right wing who support, let's say, people like Donald Trump and conservatist politics of the pretty much of all the Republican and the senators. I mean, we know that Republicans get hugely funded by, for example, by the Christian lobby, for example, right? So in that sense, I'm calling it right wing. So what I was trying to say is that so because there are these two wings who have this huge schism and bipolarity, and every 4 years election happens, and sometimes Democrat president comes, and sometimes there is this Republican president like Donald Trump comes. So because of this, the political consciousness of US politics in general is very schizophrenic, because these two parties are lying at the extreme spectrum, right? The communication between these two parties are actually not that much regular. They believe in many different things, much more than any two parties in India, for example. Um, I mean, historically in Indian politics, um, and they have their extreme wings who believe in violence. So because of this, right? Because this Charlie Kirk was getting very much popular, he was bringing apparently a lot of people from the university campus to the right wing. So some are actually concluding ki, okay, maybe because this Charlie Kirk was getting popular, that's why he got shot. Second point that was coming is was actually about the Epstein files, and Charlie Kirk was being very vocal about it recently. So what happens is that so there was this there's this guy called Jeffrey Epstein who had this sort of island where he used to do some sort of bachawazi. Okay, and he used to bring a lot of popular leaders from across the United States and also across the world into that island to do bachawazi, okay, pedophilia, and it is a federal level crime in the United States. And there are rumors that Donald Trump, the current president of the United States, was also involved in it. I mean, it is a much established fact that Epstein was a friend of Donald Trump for a very long time. But Donald Trump is saying he never went to the Epstein Island. He doesn't know what was going on there. And Trump is saying he does not have any association with the pedophilic activities that was going on in the Epstein Island for a long time. This guy Jeffrey Epstein is also dead, so we don't know. But also there are various sort of documents and other things are coming out. Um, and this guy Charlie Kirk, so the right wing conservative people, they wanted this thing to be out कि Epstein file निकालो, हमें देखना है कि who were the culprits. Now Donald Trump is actually not releasing the Epstein files, okay, and the things, the records that are there in. So, but this guy Charlie Kirk was actually very much vocal about the fact that we should know, we have a right to know what was there in the Epstein files and all these things. So because he started to question, which was not in the interest of Donald Trump, some people are arguing that maybe Trump wanted to silence this guy because USA, we know he is going through a lot of chaos right now in the in various aspects, right? In various issues, such as one is commerce, trade. Then there are uh, wars going on in Ukraine, Middle East, and all these places. China is constantly pushing the boundary of its perpetual aggressiveness. So US is actually dealing with and Donald Trump is actually dealing with a lot of things, and he did not want Charlie Kirk certainly is to be a pain in the arts. That's why he sort of um, went ahead and sort of maybe got this Charlie Kirk killed. Okay, so this is one narrative. The next narrative is the J question, the Jewish question. So we also know कि Charlie Kirk recently started to question the security lapses and other glitch in the Israeli narrative about the October 7, 2023 incident, the massacre, and also he started to question about the U.S. interest in the recent Israeli military expeditions. Um, so, in a way, he was a Christian, but he was gradually he was going to question the Jewish interest. That's why uh, maybe the Jewish lobby or certain kind of um, what do you so dark world, right? That Jewish sort of narrative and the people associated with it, they did not want Charlie Kirk to survive with all these narratives who would question the Jewish interest. That's why they got him killed, right? So these are the main sort of narratives that are being discussed about who killed Charlie Kirk. Um, and now we are going to drag it a little further, and we are going to dig a little deeper in asking, I mean, from the historical context and from the very foundation of this country, what is actually going wrong. I mean, is it an isolated incident that needs this treatment and argument in isolation, or is it is it merely a data point in the bigger sort of picture um, of current situation of USA, and it's political and theological bigotry. Okay, so now we are going to ask the question: what are the values on which the USA is built? And we know it is called the Judeo-Christian values. Okay, and Judeo-Christian values is about freedom, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I mean, these are nice words that are said and repeated again and again, but this by the very Judeo-Christian values, what they try to mean is actually it is the Abrahamic framework of the US sociopolitic that actually played a huge role in the development and evolution of this country, namely the United States. And that's why it is no wonder that the United States has become over time an open playground of all the pretty much all the Abrahamic ideologies. Or, I mean, we know there are three main ideologies which are Judaism, Christianism, and Islam, right? And even United States, as we know, because they try to control the narrative of the whole globe. No wonder this country has become an open playground of all these exclusivist Abrahamic ideologies. Right. Now, is there, we are trying to ask here, are there any loopholes in these ideologies, or are there any paradoxes in these ideologies due to which such incidents are happening, or probably these kind of incidents are going to exponentiate in future, at least in the United States, right? So we already know there is a pre-existing sort of haughty, violent, socio-political place, which is the Middle East, right? And it is a very hard fact that it is the Middle East where this socio-political space is very much sort of exclusivist from all the sides, where loot, rape, killing, genocide is so much prevalent, and it implies only one thing: that there might be anomalies, paradoxes, falsehood, and inconsistencies in the Abrahamic religions and ideologies and the values therein. Okay, and why so? Because these Abrahamic ideologies themselves are not built on truth, but they are built on historicism. They are built on falsehood. They are built on mythologies. They are built on false beliefs. They are built on not necessarily spiritual but political faiths, okay, and destructive political faiths, nonetheless. And due to this falsehood, right, over time, you cannot go on indefinitely with falsehood in the construction of a society. Why? Because falsehood cannot exist. I mean, for example, if you consider truth, right? Truth in itself does not need or does not have any interpretation, right? Truth is beyond interpretations. And truth can exist without any interpretation, almost in a void, okay, without any socio-political consciousness whatsoever. So truth is beyond socio-political consciousness also. And it is only through interaction with the environment that a meaning is imposed on truths, right? So when we start talking about political facts, for example, it is only through the interaction with the political environment, our own interpretations, our own stories, our own biases, with which we which we judge or perceive the environment, is through which a meaning is created, and a meaning is imposed on political truths, for example. Okay, just give me a second. But falsehood, for example, it cannot exist in itself in a void. Okay, so by which I mean that truth can exist without, and truth can exist beyond interpretations. Falsehood cannot exist beyond interpretations, right? Falsehood always clings onto meaning, narrative, binarity, or interpretation for its survival, right? Falsehood wants to survive, right? The truth cannot, don't shout that much. It does not put itself in a line of events, right? Chandani mang the truth. But falsehood rely on meaning, narrative, binarity, differences, and interpretations for its survival. So truth is all humble but all powerful. But falsehood is haughty, and falsehood is weak. And it is only through the truth that can establish stability in a society, while falsehood creates unnecessary social tension. Truth, no matter how paradoxical they may seem at a surface level, it can always consistently sit with each other. Truths, right? If so, in Indian sort of philosophy, you have one truth which is called the Rita, right? And then there are various branches of truth, the Satyas. So these truths they may apparently seem very paradoxical, but they always are consistent with each other, and they sit together, right? They talk to each other, and they are never in conflict. And since the truth is invariant with respect to all evolutions of mankind and their civilizations, it acts as a timeless standard to compare everything against. But there is, in principle, zero probability that two falsehoods, two false facts, or two false events, or two false interpretations will ever coexist peacefully with each other till eternity, right? If you consider till eternity, two truths will always can have the capacity to coexist. But if you consider for an infinite time, two false facts cannot coexist without any conflict till eternity. Okay, so now there is a zero chance in principle that a dogma such as Abrahamism will ever crave for the truth. Instead, doctrines like Christianity or Islam will try to create values based on might, power, right? It would have no stone unturned, would care a hang about truth when it comes to impose the doctrine on a populace, right? These Christianism, Islam, they always want to impose, right, with sword, their own version of truth, which is evidently and clearly their own truths are actually falsehoods, right? This ambition soon creates a scenario where the civilization will be filled up with falsehood. These falsehoods will eventually always clash with one another, creating social tensions and unnecessary violence. So, what I mean by that? So, for example, okay, you have a society in which Abrahamism is trying to penetrate. Let's say Christianism is trying to penetrate. So they have their own version of truth, which is nonetheless falsehood. Now, when Christianism tried to penetrate, they impose this falsehood on a society. Let's say I mean a very tribal society which was free of political agenda, but then Abrahamism enters there. They impose their own god, which are false gods pretty much, right? We know ki Abrahamism imagine god in some heaven which is above us, right? In some have in some place which is above the earth, because as per them the earth is flat and it is not moving. So this sort of weird arrangement of their god, their spiritualities, it actually these are false facts, but they impose these false facts on a tribal society. Now the tribal society, they were living with their own sort of spontaneous moralities, right? They had their own sort of facts, and they did not misinterpret them because they didn't need to. They were not that much sort of akin to the dhandabazi, right? Which were needed to sort of create political ideologies such as Christianism. So Christianism entered that kind of society. They imposed their own sort of falsehood, and then the falsehood gets, let's say, digested and imbibed by that society, right? And let's say that population get converted. And because falsehood is imposed on the society and through might, so okay, so they took refuge of some violence, and then they taught some falsehood to the society, because of which, from the very beginning um, of of the inception of Abrahamism in that society, the society start to be built upon false facts, falsehood, and these falsehood at some time start to clash with one another, creating social tensions and unnecessary violence, right? Because let's say in a society, different communities have their own sort of lifestyle, which they built from the very ancient time. After sort of analyzing their environment, they took some wise decision of how their lifestyle would be. But then, because of Abrahamism, they started to adopt falsehood, some lifestyle which is not in accordance, for example, with their nature, and then that sort of lifestyle, Abrahamic lifestyle, gradually lead to clashes. So because USA is sort of built on this sort of Abrahamic framework, it is built on falsehood, and these falsehood now are trying to fight with one another, and in the process, these sort of violent political phenomena are being born, and people like Charlie Kirk, who are adopting to one falsehood. Then there is Hillary, who is sort of clinging on to another kind of falsehood. They are in constant tussle and violent tussles, as a product of which these shooting incidents are happening, and people like Charlie Kirk are being sort of assassinated um, as a result of these sort of violent clashes within Abrahamism and within the Abrahamic facts itself. Okay, I would also like to sort of expand it. I can expand. I can sort of go on with a huge number of points, but I want to also mention here one book that I was studying, and it's called the, what is the name of the book? I think it's, yeah, Natural Right and History. What is this? Natural Right and History. It is written by Leo Strauss. Okay, so and in this book, actually, Leo Strauss is emphasizing on one fact, which is that key. Um, so it is basically claiming, this book is claiming ki there exists a concept of natural right. Okay, right in the sense of adhikar. Okay, and its place in political thought. But these Abrahamic societies, right? He's not mentioning it, but he's reaching there with his logic, which I'm going to tell you now. And because this Abrahamism, Christianism, for example, they are entirely dependent on historical circumstances than on values, natural values. Um, it's Abrahamism and their thoughts, their beliefs cannot build consistently any foundation of political thought or any idea of justice. Okay, any idea of natural justice. So yeah, so he is basically pointing on natural right versus historicism. So he's arguing basically that the modern view of historicism is that I mean, the Abrahamic view of historicism is that the all values and all the truths are product of historical development, such as the crucifixion of Christ, right? So you know that Christianism, for example, they say कि before the advent of Christ, there were dark age. After the advent of Christ, it is the age of illumination, right? While the reality is absolutely opposite of that. I mean, for example, in Europe, since the time Christianism started to grow in that subcontinent, it led to a dark age for almost 1500 years, right? Until the age of Renaissance. And the age of Renaissance was really about discarding the Christian beliefs and starting to question the Christian beliefs, and then going back to the pagan roots, the Greco-Roman pagan roots, and listening to those Greco-Roman pagan philosophers, and sort of building society upon those pagan philosophic values. So, because the Abrahamic ideologies they depend much on the historicism and not on values and truths, um, they undermine the possibility of objective moral standards. Right? Christianism is always going to say you ki whatever is written in the Old and New Testament is the absolute truth, and whoever does not abide by it are actually sinner or are actually incorrect. By taking that position, so de facto, Christianism or Islam, they sort of become exclusivist, and they become the sort of naysaying ideologies कि पहले ये लोग देखेंगे कि एक बंदा इसमें आता है कि नहीं, तो शुरू में ही दे आर क्रिएटिंग सच ए बायस जहाँ जो नेचुरल नहीं है फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट नेचुरल नहीं है इसलिए शायद ये ऑब्जेक्टिव भी नहीं है मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम. एंड इन कॉन्ट्रास्ट द नेचुरल राइट holds that there are timeless principles of justice and morality inherent in human nature and reason. ठीक है? So um, basically there can exist some spontaneous morality, some spontaneous pagan Hindu, for example. These kind of moralities जो basically बहुत slowly develop हुआ है with human experience, with natural experience, and with the interaction of human and environment, जो ग्रेजुअली हमें समझ में आया, ह्यूमैनिटी को ग्रेजुअली ग्रास्प किया है कि दिस कैन बी अ मोरल प्रिंसिपल. And these set of principles, pagan principles, they are generally timeless, and they are the objective principles of justice, and they are morally sort of inherent in human nature and reason. Then वो एक पॉइंट बोलते हैं कि फॉर एग्जांपल क्लासिकल वर्सेस अब्राहमिक पॉलिटिकल फिलोसफी. ठीक है? So basically Leo Strauss is saying in this point कि the classical, I mean, sort of the pagan Greco-Roman political philosophers like Plato or Aristotle, with the sort of modern Renaissance thinker like Machiavelli, Hobbes or Rousseau. So he's saying कि the classical approach, the great classical Greco-Roman pagan approach, they, like Aristotle, they used to seek universal moral truths grounded in nature, while the modern, or so to say, the Abrahamic modernity, it abandons this naturality of thought, naturality of argument in favor of relativism or positive law. So क्योंकि अब्राहमिज्म क्या करता है कि इसका गलत है मेरा सही है, राइट? अब्राहमिज्म does not see कि मुझे एक जगह तक पहुंचना है. It does not have an evolution. It is inherently very atavist. It has a book. तो अगर हम लोग 2000 AD 3000 AD में भी है, it will always go back to that book, like Old Testament, New Testament, Quran, and it will always judge the society on the basis of whatever written in that book, right? So इसमें क्या होता है, इसमें evolution lost हो जाता है. एक जो नेचुरल इवोल्यूशन होता है, नेचुरल इवोल्यूशन ऑफ आवर अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ ट्रूथ, ये खत्म हो जाता है. एंड ओवरऑल जो हमारा फ्रेमवर्क हो जाता है वो एक बहुत ज्यादा रिलेटिव फ्रेमवर्क हो जाता है. एंड इसमें नेचुरलिटी खत्म हो जाता है. And so, which mean ki this relativism leads to nihilism, no wonder, and the collapse of moral foundation. He argues that natural right provides a rational basis of justice that transcends particular historical and cultural circumstances. So basically, the natural idea of right and justice, because because it is objective and slowly ये develop हुआ है with human evolution, it can form a rational basis for justice. But जब Abrahamism relativism जो है, it does not obey by that inherent nature of human being. एक ह्यूमन अपने आप से स्पॉन्टेनियसली जो सोचता है, अब्राहमिज्म उसको जज करता है in relative to an external scripture and the external morality there. As a result क्या होता है कि एक human being in order to sustain and survive in that Abrahamic framework, he needs to constantly sort of create a story about himself which can reduce the split between his own spontaneous morality and the external morality of the as prescribed by the Abrahamism, as prescribed for example by the Christianism. ये जो human being का thoughts और Abrahamism के बीच जो एक मतलब human spontaneous value और Abrahamic value के बीच जो split create होता है, ये स्प्लिट की वजह से ह्यूमन बीइंग काफी टाइम इसमें इससे डिप्रेशन आता है कि मैं जो कर रहा हूँ वो सही नहीं है, मेरे अंदर जो आ रहा है वो सही नहीं है. मेरे अंदर जो ऑर्गेनिकली जो चीजें आ रहा है, मेरे अंदर से ऑर्गेनिकली जो मोरालिटी इमर्ज हो रहा है, मैं ऑर्गेनिकली नेचुरली जो जस्टिस के बारे में जैसे सोचता हूँ वो सही नहीं है, क्योंकि दैट इज नॉट सैंक्शनड बाय कुरान और बाइबल फॉर एग्जांपल. ठीक है, तो यहाँ से क्या आता है, कांस्टेंट एक एक निहिलिज्म आता है, एक डिप्रेशन आता है, राइट. एक it leads to a loss of self confidence, and we know as a fact that human beings are not nihilistic. I mean, we know it is a pratyaksh, it is a direct experience that we are not nihilistic, but because Abrahamism always sort of puts us in a on a trial every time, right, every moment. ये जो कांस्टेंट ट्रायल चलता रहता है ह्यूमन साइकी के साथ, ये ह्यूमन बीइंग को एक एब्सर्डिटी में डाल देता है जहां से निहिलिज्म का दरवाजा खुल जाता है. ठीक है, फिर फिलोसफी एंड पॉलिटिक्स. लियो स्ट्रॉस देन एक्सप्लोर्स द टेंशन बिटवीन फिलोसफी एंड पॉलिटिक्स, suggesting that philosophers might carefully navigate political realities without compromising their search for truth. He then interprets the esoteric writing in classical text as a method to communicate controversial ideas without endangering the author. हाँ, तो बेसिकली इसका पैरेलल आर्गुमेंट ये है, जैसे हमें पता है हमारे पास जैसे वेद है, वेदांत है, वी डोंट नो हु एग्जैक्टली इज द ऑथर, एंड दीज आर आवर क्लासिकल टेक्स्ट, राइट. एंड इस बुक तो यहाँ पे क्या होता है, यहाँ पे हमें ऑथर पता नहीं है, हमें सिर्फ आइडिया पता है, बिकॉज ऑफ विच वी कैन डिस्कस द आइडिया कि कौन सा सही है कौन सा गलत है, विदाउट इंक्रिमिनेटिंग एनी इंडिविजुअल, राइट, विदाउट एंडेंजरिंग एनी ऑथर. बट अब्राहमिक फ्रेमवर्क क्या देता है कि इस इंडिविजुअल ने ये लिखा है, राइट. उसके वजह से क्या होता है, इससे एक sort of because it becomes so individualistic, और फिर जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल कि इनका पॉल द अपोस्टल हो गया या फिर काफ़ी सारे जो इनके सेंट्स हो गए हैं, इनको काफ़ी सारा क्रेडिट दिया जाता है, उस हिसाब से इनका एक जैसे एक पर्सोना बिल्ड किया जाता है अब्राहमिज्म में, बिकॉज दीज आर मेनली कल्ट्स, so they have to build different persona, right, in order to promote and propagate their ideas. I mean, they say that they hate idolatry, but really this is the way through which they promote idolatry of personas, right. तो हाँ, तो बेसिकली क्या होता है कि यहाँ पे फिर जो फिलोसफी होता है वो भी स्पॉन्टेनियस रह नहीं जाता, बिकॉज इनका एक इंटेंशन रहता है टू प्रोपगेट दिस सॉर्ट ऑफ एब्राहमिक आइडियाज. तो वहाँ पे फिलोसफी स्पॉन्टेनियस नहीं रहता, फिलोसफी भी राइटिंग भी पॉलिटिकल हो जाता है. ठीक है, फिर फर्दर मोर जस्टिस इज नॉट a mere social convention, but a principle rooted in the nature of man. It is accessible through reason and reflection and provides an objective standard by which to judge political order. तो अगर हमें कोई नेचुरल, कोई पॉलिटिकल, सोशियो पॉलिटिकल ऑर्डर क्रिएट करना है, वो हमारे अंदर से आना चाहिए. इट शुड कम फ्रॉम द प्रिंसिपल रूटेड इन द नेचर ऑफ मैन, राइट? But what Abrahamism does, it does not care about the spontaneous nature of a man. It just try to impose, it try to create a narrative. एक इंसान को भी एक स्प्लिट में डाल देता है, एक स्किज्म में डाल देता है, राइट? और क्योंकि उस इंडिविजुअल से भी इनको कुछ पॉलिटिकल आइडियाज निकालना है, क्योंकि इन्हें नैरेटिव क्रिएट करना है. सो बिकॉज द अब्राहमिक प्रिंसिपल्स आर नॉट रूटेड इन द नेचर ऑफ अ मैन, they do not reflect and provide an objective standard through which we can create political orders. तो क्योंकि तो यहाँ से मैं अब फिर आता हूँ कि यूएस के पॉलिटिक्स में वापस आता हूँ. बेसिकली यूएस का जो पॉलिटिक्स है, इट इज फाउंडेड अपॉन द अब्राहमिक फ्रेमवर्क, इट इज फाउंडेड अपॉन द जूडियो क्रिश्चियन फ्रेमवर्क. ये जो जूडियो क्रिश्चियन वैल्यूज है, दीज आर नॉट ऑर्गेनिक वैल्यूज, these are values which are not rooted in the nature of man, human being. इसलिए क्या होता है, बिकॉज these are providing external relativistic framework, some external atavist morality. तो यहाँ से पॉलिटिकल ऑर्डर, एक ऑर्गेनिक पॉलिटिकल ऑर्डर नहीं निकल सकता. एंड दिस इज द schism that these sort of countries which are built on Abrahamic values, they go through, and they will go through by even sort of more exponential order in future, जहाँ पे ये जो एक्सटर्नल मोरालिटी के द्वारा जो बनाया गया जो फॉल्सूड है, उसका कैसल इतना बड़ा हो जाएगा, इट विल नो मोर बी एबल टू सस्टेन इटसेल्फ. और ये जो हवा में जो कैसल बनाया है, इसका जब पैराडॉक्स लोगों के आंखों के सामने दिखेगा, वो पैराडॉक्स भी यूनिफॉर्म नहीं होगा. बाय दैट आई मीन, ये जो कैसल इन्होंने बनाया है, ये कैसल हर एक इंडिविजुअल के नजर में अलग होगा, बिकॉज इट इज अ रिलेटिविस्ट फ्रेमवर्क, इट इज नॉट एन ऑर्गेनिक फ्रेमवर्क. तो उन्होंने जो सिस्टम बिल्ड किया है, उसका जो फॉल्ट होगा, वो अलग अलग लोगों के नजर में अलग अलग तरीके से इंटरप्रेट होगा. And because of which it will create the tension between individuals, tension between different social orders, between different communities, which will eventually lead to demise of a apparently great country like United States of America. So in my view, the assassination of Charlie Kirk is is probably the beginning of a end of a mighty empire, which is the United States of America. भूपेंद्र है क्या? Is anyone there? एक मिनट. So Boisalidi is asking, monotheism by way of ideology, not practice, is merely a sectarian political over with nothing more. It has been some philosophical gap. Right, right. I totally agree with this. But I think, 1 second. One place open. Huh. Another problem of Abrahamism, in addition to the cult, is that you are in or you are out. Ism is right, right. So this is the exclusivism, right? कि by default they take a position जहाँ से वो human being के जो obviously they take a position which is not natural and organic, which mean कि सभी जो मतलब एक ह्यूमन बीइंग, उनके कुछ स्पॉन्टेनियस ऑर्गेनिक मोरालिटी होता है. अब्राहमिज्म उसका परवाह नहीं करता. सो इट puts before you a carrot, right? A carrot of morality, an external scriptural morality. तो वो जो मोरालिटी इंपोज करते हैं, उसके साथ सभी ह्यूमन बीइंग का स्प्लिट होता है. और उसके हिसाब से इनिशियली सारे लोग अब्राहमिज्म से बाहर ही होते हैं. तो फिर उनका अब्राहमिज्म का मिशन होता है कि सारे लोग तो बाहर है, अब मुझे इन सारों को मेरे अम्ब्रेला के अंदर लाना होगा. So initially it takes a very nay saying position, ना saying position. हमें सब लोग इनिशियली ना बोलते हैं. वहां से फिर धीरे धीरे बाय पावर, बाय sword or by whatever deceit, they try to start to build a community, right? So initially, yes, their default position is they are exclusivist and they are exclusivist and they are nay saying, they are na saying, right? And which is very dangerous. True. This makes them posit that theirs is the only ideology that could have converted men from apes to humans, and it's impossible for humans to have achieved anything exactly. And in order to achieve that, in order to prove the supremacy of Abrahamism, uh, and the supremacy of man after they adopt Abrahamism, in order to just prove that, what they have historically done, so they attacked cities, they have burnt all the temples, they have burnt all the universities, they have burnt all the libraries, ताकि हिस्ट्री पूरा खत्म हो जाए ह्यूमन बीइंग का। जैसे क्रिश्चियनिज्म से पहले यूरोप का हिस्ट्री क्या था वो हमें पता नहीं चलता, आर्ग्यूमेंट क्या होता था वो डायरेक्टली हमें पता नहीं चलता, राइट? सो दे बर्न्ड ऑल, एंड आफ्टर दैट जब लाइब्रेरी जला के भी खत्म नहीं हुआ, सो दे क्रिएटेड दिस लीजियन ऑफ मैन। लीजियन मतलब आर्मी की, जो एक्चुअली रोमन आर्मी में नहीं है, बट जो आम आदमी है उनका एक लीजियन बनाया, एंड उनको बोला कि सारे नेबर्स के घर जाओ और उनके घर में क्या क्या बुक है वो ढूंढ के निकालो, और वो बुक्स जब उनके घर से निकाल के फिर बाहर लाओ, वो बुक्स को जलाओ। सो बुक बर्निंग इज एन एक्टिविटी जो एक्चुअली क्रिश्चियनिज्म से चालू हुआ है, ठीक है? जुडाइज्म मुझे इतना पता नहीं है कि इन्होंने ये सब कांड किया है कि नहीं, बट मतलब जो अर्लीस्ट एक्टिविटी जो मैं ट्रेस कर पाया हूँ वो एक्चुअली क्रिश्चियनिज्म ने किया है। And then so they burned all the books, they burned all the arguments, all the libraries, um, और उसके बाद they started to impose their ideology on people, right, by force. So यही हुआ है।
Okay. Next comment highlight. Is there any comment left for us to highlight? Okay. Let me. Okay. Yeah. So we have one more comment from Oshalidi, where she mentions, I compare it to the Orwellian 1984 Huxley's Brave New World's disposition, where these ceases to be the sense of history, there is only the present. Hence, the wokeism is a natural culmination of Abrahamism.
Right. All these isms, right? Even the atheism also. So see, the point is that you can create an ideology with a god or without a god. The moment you adopt to a framework जहाँ पे आइडियोलॉजी में गॉड को सुप्रीम मान के वहां से निकाला जाता है, फिर वहां से तो फिर विथ वन गॉड भी एक आइडियोलॉजी निकल सकता है, विथ नो गॉड एक आइडियोलॉजी कोई आइडियोलॉजी निकल सकता है। सी ये जो फ्रेमवर्क में एक मतलब हिस्टोरिसिज्म इंपोर्ट करना, फिर फ्रेमवर्क में ये जो मोनोथिज्म इंपोर्ट करना, इससे एक्चुअली जो ह्यूमन वैल्यूज ऑर्डर्स ये सब पे जो चर्चा होता था उस पे फिर जैसे ऑब्वियसली ब्लास्फेमी ये सब चीजें लाया गया। तो इसके थ्रू क्या किया इन्होंने, फिर आइडियोलॉजी को बेसिकली पॉलिटिकल बना दिया, भगवान को भी पॉलिटिकल बना दिया, और भगवान को पॉलिटिकल बनाया इस तरह से कि भगवान को सूली पे चढ़ा दिया। दे नेल्ड देयर गॉड ऑन ए क्रॉस to subjugate, to call human beings sinners, and in the process, so to level them as sinners, and to in this process, so that they can get the right to convert these peoples, है ना, कि तुम सिनर हो, अब तुम्हें साल्वेशन चाहिए, तो तुम्हें तो फिर क्रिश्चियनिटी अपनाना पड़ेगा। मतलब इन्होंने ये नैरेटिव बनाया भगवान को सूली पे चढ़ा के कि वहां से कि तुम लोग सिनर हो, अब मैं तुम्हें रक्षा करूंगा। तो ये जो सबवर्शन ऑफ नैरेटिव क्रिएट हुआ ये सबसे डेंजरस है। और न्यू वर्ल्ड जो डिस्पोजिशन है, सो आई थिंक क्रिश्चियनिटी या आई थिंक जुडाइज्म में एक वर्ड कहा गया है, इसे वन वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर कहा गया है, ठीक है? ये वर्ड कहीं पे मिलता है जुडियो क्रिश्चियन स्क्रिप्चर में। पहले ये वन वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर कहा जाता था, अब इसको न्यू वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर कहा जाता है। And obviously they need to seize the sense of history. I mean, they need to burn any history before Abrahamism. जैसे क्रिश्चियनिटी जब आया उससे पहले का जो हिस्ट्री था उन्होंने जला दिया. क्यों? बिकॉज दे हैड टू प्रूव कि इससे पहले एक डार्क एज एग्जिस्ट करता था. Just to prove that point, they had to burn all the libraries, statues, societies, houses, cultures, trades, inventions, libraries, books, everything they had to burn so that they could prove that there existed a dark age before the advent of Christianism.
Okay, so we have Anand with us, but before we go to Anand, we'll take one more comment from Shaptorshi. Monotheism is the product of simple mind trying to find uh, simplistic answers and avoid complexities.
No, I have a doubt about this. I don't think they are trying to find any answer. I think they already have an answer, and they try to give it in a very complex way. जैसे आप अगर कोई भी इस्लामिक बंदे को पूछ लोगे फिर वो कहेगा कि यार ये तो उस हदीस में लिखा हुआ है. फिर पहले बोले यार कुरान में तो ये लिखा हुआ है कि काफिरों को मारने के लिए बोला है. बोला नहीं, इसका इंटरप्रिटेशन और हिस्टोरिकल कॉन्टेक्स्ट तुम्हें पढ़ा नहीं. वो पढ़ने के लिए तुम्हें वो हदीस में जाना पड़ेगा. फिर हदीस दिखाओगे फिर बोलेगा नहीं, इसका इंटरप्रिटेशन तो हमारे जो हाफिज है उससे मिलेगा. तुम हाफिज बन जाओ तो तुम फिर बोल सकते हो, नहीं तो इसके बारे में बात मत करना. सो दे कॉम्प्लेक्सिफाई अ सिंपल प्रॉब्लम because they don't want to find any new answer. They think they already have answer to all the questions in the universe. और वहाँ पे problem आ जाता है.
Okay, so now we have with us Anand. So Anand,
Hi Anand, how are
welcome.
you?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me? Just confirm.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. We can
Okay,
hear
so
you loud and clear.
I don't know where to start though, because there's a lot of things involved in this. The first thing is I disagree with Bijeet that see Indian Christian conservatism is not a right wing idea. So, for example, if you look at it was right wing in the so-called in Europe because it was established by the state, right? So the king was the head of the church, and he basically gave out the pronouncements of law and stuff. So there it was right wing. Made sense, right? It was right wing. So wherever there was monarchy, it was right wing, because the establishment of the religion came from the authority of the king, similar to ours. So, for example, if you have a Indian Hindu kingdom, it will be right wing because the king, the dharmic king, will establish dharma onto everyone. So we normally see right wing as establishment is controlling the society. It's not just people
No,
do
but
whatever they want.
historically the right wing came from the events before the French Revolution, right? कि French Revolution
No,
में
that's what
क्या
I'm saying.
हुआ?
That's what I'm saying. But we can't
तो
frame
मतलब
it.
राइट विंग आई थिंक इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में डिस्कस करना थोड़ा मुश्किल रहेगा क्योंकि यहाँ
No,
पे तो
mostly I'm saying
धार्मिक. हाँ.
No, so I'm just saying. So, if I'm saying kingdom, I'm saying the king, the way the king determines the laws of the land. The right wing comes. That's why Christianity comes from right wing. Because again, take for example the Church of England, right? The church, the king is the head of the Church of England, and he's the head of the state as well, right? Until they got democracy, that's how they used to administer their countrymen. The church would make pronouncements, the king would authorize it, and then people would follow it, right? So that's the right wing structure that they had. Now, when you go to the US, what happened was that thing completely messed up because they wanted to break away from the authority of the king, because many of them were slavers, many of them were like they were plantation owners, and they were like a lot of money, and the king was demanding taxes that they don't want to pay. So they were like, we don't want to be part of this right wing establishment that is the church. So they fought against them. So that if you notice, the whole war of independence of the US is against the established right wing. They're anti-right wing, essentially, right? And you notice who supports them. The French support them, because the French want the same thing. They want to break away from the monarchy of the Anglican Church. Basically, the Anglican Church, along with the monarchy, they want to help them break away from it, because that's how even Canada was built. Basically, the same concept, right? So then these guys overthrow the establishment right wing. Now they have two options. They have two sets of people. A set of people, free people, and you have slave owners and large plantation people who had slavery. If you observe the early history of the US, the Republicans were the pro-abolishment of slaves, free enterprise, freedom of expression. They were pro that shit, like the Republicans initially, because that's where they came from. They wanted to create a democratic republic. Republican comes from there. Republic. India is a republic, right? Essentially a republic. The other people didn't want republic. They wanted to just own like whatever they had. They were the old feudal elites, right? And they had gained a lot of property, and they're not willing to give it up. So that's why the Civil War basically was that the fight of the Republicans versus these collectivist Democrats. They were technically Democrats in those days, right? Long time back. So if you look back, at some point, the Democrats would expand Democrats would expand their space, right? And the Republicans were losing a lot of space in the political system. So the Democrats started like pandering to the other fringes, like the fringes of society. Immediately, and they became less Christian. They became more like this kind. The Christian right switched to the Republican Party, and the Republican Party started quoting them. So then the whole switch happened. So basically, all the Republicans, all the Christian right, migrated from the Democrats to the Republicans, and all the so-called liberal people migrated to Democrats. It basically just switched positions. So we are at that particular situation right now. Then you have two different waves. You have the waves of the leftists taking over the Democratic Party, and you have like I mentioned last time, the Tea Party Republicans taking over the Republicans. So right now the situation is we have this 4 segment in the American politics stuck in a two-party system. Basically, we're stuck with that, right? So we have the old Republicans who are basically the old style, like free. Like there's this what's this guy's name? I forgot his name. He fought against Trump in the last election, the first one, his first round. He's the main contender. What's that? Bush's brother and one more guy, one governor. They fought against Trump because they were part of the old Republican establishment. The free market, sort of free market. I would not really call it free market. Pandering to Christian conservatives to a certain amount, but not populist. They were not populist. They were just collectivists in the Christian sense, right? And then we have this the coalition that Trump was building, basically of populists, anti-immigration, and quite anti-free market, because a free market requires you to allow for immigration. The Bush section, right? The so-called what do you call it? Neocons. Neocons were pro immigrating people, allowing people to come immigrate, take jobs. They're the ones who basically exported all the jobs to China. Right? The neocons and neolibs came together and exported all the jobs. Yes, Jeb Bush. Thank you, Rishi. Jeb Bush. And they exported the jobs to China. So, through free market, will basically let the jobs go where they're going to go. But these guys are not. They're anti-free market. They're pro, what's the word? Local politics, collectivist politics, populism. So, that's the stage. So, I would qualify Charlie Kirk in that section. He's not technically a right-winger. They are populists, in my opinion, just pure populists, and they're taking over ideas that come from any populist section. And Christianity is a highly populist religion, so they are incorporating, because there are Christian Democrats as well. In the Democratic Party, there are a lot of Christian churches that are affiliated, like a lot of the southern black churches are affiliated with the Democratic Party, right? Because again, the Christianity is not clearly, it's not divided by party. It's just who are like, it's basically some ethnic groups will join this group, and because for example, a lot of the Indians were voting for Democrats, right? And the minute they became more, I don't know, I guess they were not they're not economically liberal. I'm not sure what happened actually. I'm not sure why Indians moved to the Republicans. I think basically was Trump was saying, "You join my thing, I'll give you H-1B visas, I'll give you this, I'll give you that." And he did none of it. I think it's less about that, not about principles, in my opinion. So sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so actually there's a very interesting comment which has come. So this is something, so instead of looking at it as a polytheistic and the monotheistic religions, a more practical analysis would be state-defined religions and religion-defined states. That's a very interesting take. Thank you, Babrikati, for this. What do you think, Anand?
State-defined religion, states. I'm thinking for examples to understand this.
Okay, let me give you the example when you are thinking. So let's take like a ancient Indian state, correct? You have Gupta, Mauryas, correct? Dynasty, correct? So they would actually not favor any specific panth. We don't call sect panths, okay? Panths of philosophies, right? But they would like favor few of them. Like, okay, I like this panth, so I will give them some land grants and some special privileges. But they would not actually persecute the other punts or philosophies which would be existing. Okay. So as a state, it is not defining what religion or what philosophy or panth is better or good. Okay, but they might support because of their personal preferences. Okay, so what she is talking about here is that, okay, in the Bharatiya context, okay, state was not defining which panth you need to follow. Okay, as a kind of a order or a decree, or as a state religion or a state panth. But when we see Abrahamism, we see that the state and the philosophy is aligned and one, and it is defining what is like who is a pious, righteous person and who is not. So,
But but again, they're a little confused because, so for example, give some good examples like when Japan went from Shinto to Buddhism, right? They
hmm,
transitioned
hmm,
faith. Again, that was the state. That was the monarch defining the transition from Shinto to Buddhism. Or for example, when you take, I guess maybe you can say the Chola Empire was where religion defined states, like the different traditions. Punts defined how the state functioned because there were so many different punts in the Chola Empire. They had a more syncretic temple culture, right? You would see 3-4 different Shiva, Vishnu, all in the same temple complex, right? Because of that, and maybe state-defined religions is what, for example, the UK monarchy, right? Because the state defined whether the state followed Anglican Protestantism or it followed Catholicism or whatever, right? Maybe that's a way to look at it. But my question more about it is how is it affecting the thing we're discussing, the Charlie Kirk event, right? What exactly is about Charlie Kirk that has to do anything to do with religion? I don't think it's about religion. I think it's about populism specifically. It's about the mob deciding policy. See, that's my point. They're using the trappings of religion, but it's technically just the mob. So, for example, the person they're put on top of the pedestal is not technically a Christian conservative. Like he has none of the characteristics of a Christian conservative. He's not committed to marriage. He's not pious. He's not pure. He doesn't use good language, right? He doesn't do charity. See, he doesn't have the trappings of a typical Christian conservative. So I don't see him as
No,
a
so
Christian conservatism.
yeah, I have a point to say here. So my last point that I discussed extensively, right? Beyond this regular discussion of religion and everything, I was talking about something called split. So what I was saying ki due to Abrahamism, right? Abrahamism, for example, Christianism does not care that much about natural right, natural order, for example,
Hmm.
the organicness of argument, organicness of justice, natural justice, all these things, right? Because they are centered around historicism and some sort of an atavism कि एक बुक है और उसी से सारे इंटरप्रिटेशन निकलेगा
Huh.
राइट the problem that it generates is कि it creates a split within a human psyche. और क्योंकि ये split create करता है further I mean it is the individual thoughts right जहाँ से एक political order निकलता है. तो मेरा आर्ग्यूमेंट ये है कि बिकॉज अनलाइक लेट्स से पेगनिज्म और जैसे हिंदुइज्म हो गया हमारा जैसे एक नेचुरल स्पॉन्टेनियस मोरालिटी एंड मोरल ऑर्डर से हम लोग जस्टिस को डिफाइन करने की कोशिश करते हैं. यहाँ पे वो नहीं किया जाता. यहाँ पे एक एक्सटर्नल स्क्रिप्चरल मोरालिटी से जस्टिस का आइडिया डिराइव करने की कोशिश किया जाता है राइट. दैट इज एटलीस्ट व्हाट दिस गाय लियो स्ट्रॉस इज सेइंग. यहाँ पे
Hmm.
प्रॉब्लम क्या होता है. द प्रॉब्लम इज कि फिर जैसे माइट इज राइट हो जाता है.
Hmm.
नाउ यहाँ पे फिर लोगों को समझाना मुश्किल हो जाता है कि भाई पॉलिटिकल वायलेंस इज नॉट द वे. जैसे मतलब यहाँ पे लोगों को लगता है अरे बिकॉज इट इज ऑर्डेंड इन आवर स्क्रिप्चर कि इन्होंने पता नहीं जॉन ने बोला है, जॉन द अपोस्टल ने बोला है कि यू आर द सोल्जर, यू आर द आर्मी, यू आर द लीजियन, यू शुड मतलब डाई इन ऑर्डर टू प्रोटेक्ट द ट्रूथ. कौन सा ट्रूथ? जो बिब्लिकल ट्रूथ है. तो फिर क्योंकि पूरा नैरेटिव उनका is centered around this book and might is right and all these kind of thing कि जबरदस्ती करके you have to impose your truth on others. फिर यहाँ से लोगों को समझाना मुश्किल हो जाता है कि भाई थोड़ा आराम से रहो, ठहर जाओ, थोड़ा बैठ के डिस्कस कर लेते हैं, फिर वहां से ट्रूथ निकलेगा. नो, दे डोंट बिलीव इन दैट काइंड ऑफ मतलब सॉर्ट ऑफ डिस्कवरिंग ट्रूथ थ्रू डिस्कशंस.
So
अपरेंटली
I
लग
get it.
सकता है कि वहां पे साइंस इतना फ्लॉरिश कर रहा है तो ये तो होना नहीं चाहिए, बट साइंस अगेन, साइंस वो वहां पे फ्लॉरिश किया इन स्पाइट ऑफ दैट. ठीक है, दे बिलीव नॉट इन डिस्कवरिंग ट्रूथ, दे बिलीव इन द इम्पोजिशन ऑफ ट्रूथ. और वहां से
You know,
ये प्रॉब्लम निकलता है, और
so
प्रॉब्लम वहां से
so
एक्सपोनेंशियल होता
I
है.
understand. I actually get your point. I get the fact that you're looking at the anthropological basis of how they structure a society, right? Because
Right.
of their religion, it is basically changed the way they look at the world, right?
This
Even in science,
assertiveness, right?
actually, it affects even their science. So if you look at
Hmm.
scientific dogma or scientific structures in the West, it comes from authority. So the standard way of defining sciences. Are you got peer reviewed journals? Do you have someone authority that you can source, right? So this is basically, again, like you're saying, no one's discussing and coming to it. It's like this is already pre established. You have to follow this strictly, and that's something. So there's a lot of conflict when it comes to new discoveries, right? They have difficulty taking on new ideas. But thankfully, science is not as dogmatic as traditions and religion are, because science allows you. Its fundamental, its nature is to allow you to change. So it's not so susceptible to this. But even then, even that is susceptible. So, for example, when they were going from Newtonian mechanics to Einstein, call it quantum mechanics, there's a lot of resistance. They're like, well, how can you take quantum mechanics? It's like, doesn't make any sense. It's frustrating. Same in
क्वांटम
string
मैकेनिक्स
theory.
तो ठीक है, बट द प्रॉब्लम विद द कोपर्निकन मॉडल फॉर एग्जांपल, जहां पे डायरेक्टली वो इम्पोज, मतलब
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So exactly. So let's go a little deeper in that. Like I want to take what Rishi said, right? He's saying Charlie carried his faith around a lot, right? But my point fundamentally is, let's look at the MAGA movement. The MAGA movement is not a religious movement. It is a populist movement. See, I'm trying to distill in MAGA movement, not the general right in the US. The MAGA movement fundamentally is a populist movement stating that what the population right now we have, I don't want to change that culture. The culture of the current population should not change. The economy of the current population should not change. The benefits the current population gets should not change. There's a lot of a lot of Christian right are joining that movement. I say non-traditional voters, like a lot of black voters, are joining the MAGA movement. Why? Not because suddenly those right-wing Christians have become not racist. See, you understand the Anglican right have been racist for a long time. That's why the blacks were the black community was always hanging out. The black Democrats or black Christians were always with the Democrats. Even the older generation, like, let's be honest, the older generation of the black community are very wise. They actually established their homes and their culture very well. So if you read Thomas Sowell mentions this. The old black culture was one of family, one of inclusive, one of extended families, one of bringing in cultural values and everything. Right? Where suddenly it broke down. So maybe 2-3 generations later, it is broken down. And now these youngsters are like, what the hell are we getting? We're getting nothing from this Democratic Party, right? So when this MAGA movement has exactly like, yes, exactly. Like, so Vaishali is correct. So what is happening is, because the MAGA movement is more populist and they're framing what they are against, right? Large number of these non-traditional groups are joining them in the movement. But it doesn't mean like, you look at even that march for Australia that recently was shown. There were a lot of racists in the crowd. Like, they literally booed off an Indian guy who's saying, "I'm for maintaining the culture of Australia." They're booing him, right? Because those people are not changed. They're not fundamentally changed. They're just like taking advantage of people who are lost, basically. And those people are also looking for a larger umbrella that they can follow, right? So my thing is this: what is happening to Charlie Kirk is a example of who are being excluded, and he is adopting those people. My opinion, at least, that's what I think. And even this violence was because of the intolerance on the other side. So the intolerance that's happening is on the other side, and these people are framing. So you understand, these people are framing themselves as the tolerant side. I don't see them as the more tolerant side generally. If you observe their actual statements, right? So, for example, when they're campaigning for Trump, when Vivek Ramaswamy was campaigning with Charlie Kirk, what was their narrative? Their narrative was anyone who legally comes to this country with credentials should be allowed to work. That's literally how they used to fight all the left wingers. They literally fought with every time you see them in their free speech debates. They're like, a left winger comes and says you're anti-immigration. They say, no, we are pro-immigration, but only for skilled legal immigrants. But you notice the minute they won the election, how did it change? It changed like 180 degrees. It changed. It's like, no, we are for all immigrants who are not in American should not come. We don't want immigrants. They're taking over our jobs. And then Indian immigrants, H1B, how dare you? They changed because they knew they'd beaten the left of that argument, and now the left is another thing I'll blame is the left is not a very good. They don't debate these people very well.
How they got rid of Vivek Ramaswamy? I mean,
they didn't get rid of him. He came back.
Now.
He came back again and started giving tribute to Charlie Kirk and everything. You notice the minute they need to burnish the credentials, they brought in the brown man.
Right.
They brought in you notice the internet is flooded with Asians and black people in the US saying, "Oh, Charlie Kirk is not a racist." Do you notice that suddenly today, suddenly, like the whole you see one after the other, you see messages coming up. Oh, Charlie Kirk is not racist. Look at the picture of me hanging out with him. He called me a short man, but he was so sweet to me. I may be in a short black man, but he was so nice to me, Charlie Kirk. You notice the flood of suddenly we have to understand this is all messaging. All phenomenal messaging organized by these groups, right? Look at how quickly the Candace Owen turned on the Jewish community in the right wing, so-called MAGA right wing. How quickly she turned on them. She turned on them, right? The minute they did something they didn't like. What was the MAGA saying? We are anti-terrorism, right? But the minute the Jewish community goes after terrorists and these people don't like it, something they don't like about it, we'll target you again.
Right. Yeah, so to reply to Rishi on this, highly entitled. Yeah, so there is a word about it, which is the self-righteousness. So they are very much self-righteous about what they think morality should be. So इसलिए and obviously मतलब they think so because they have a scripture and they talk in reference to it. इसलिए थोड़ा
black and white.
हाँ वहाँ से थोड़ा arrogance आता है, right? वहाँ से split
arrogance
आता है, right?
Not just arrogance, authority. You have to understand. This is clear. This is pure. They claim authority by. So, for example, they frame themselves as a right, divine right. Both the left and the right in the US frame themselves in this context, and they use very selective, minimal character because in messaging, what you do, no complex messaging, simple messaging. This person is this person this three, four things you have mentioned. Debate only on those topics. Don't go beyond them. Bring everything back to those 3 points.
I would like to point out one more thing. कि इसीलिए जब भी if you want to argue with a person promoting Christianism, do not argue about the moral part. ठीक है? You argue about the very historicity. You start with your argument कि भाई इसका primary reference दो. Christianity का जो Jesus आया था उसका primary reference कहाँ है उसके time पे? Bible का primary. So because they are so much centered around, they frame their argument around the historicity कि उस point पे जो हुआ था उस पे book लिखा गया था ये हुआ था वो हुआ था. No, मतलब उस पे question करो कि इसका कोई primary reference है क्या? And
no, I'm saying no, you're missing. The fundamental of Christianity is based on violence. See, this is the problem. We are not. No.
But what? Civil way में जब argument चल रहा है, the way to मतलब उनको अगर 2 सेकंड के लिए चुप कराना है, जिसमें तुम्हें और मौका मिलेगा, just directly ask कि इसका primary reference दे दो कि Jesus existed.
No, I'll tell you something more interesting.
2 सेकंड के लिए वो चुप होगा.
Yes, but
बाद में morality लाना, नहीं तो वो फिर उस पे चिढ़ाएगा कि वही गणेश का मुंडी क्यों नहीं है, शिव ने वो क्यों किया था.
I'm not saying like that. I'm talking about I'll give you an example. I'll explain to you what I mean. The reason why I say Christianity's fundamental premise is based on an act of violence is original sin.
Right.
Original sin, why I frame it as an act of violence, because someone did an act that they did not know they were guilty of. were not even told in advance that this is what you could be guilty of, right? They were not told by the person something that they that so for example, the creator created the angels, right? The creator created the angels. One of the angels was angry with the creator, and because the angel questioned the creator, he was banished to hell. And that same person is deluding or causing putting a trap for the creator's next creation. And the creator doesn't have sympathy for its next creation. Instead, it says the creator says that you are responsible for listening to my creation, who I've never warned you about, might send you off the I'm saying will
Right.
send you off the topic, and I will punish you for it permanently
Hmm.
with no sympathy. Remember, they even when Christians accept Jesus Christ, they don't deny that he is son of this God that has done this. They
Right.
don't deny this. They don't say this creator did not do this, right? The entire creation of the whole fundamental idea of original sin starts from this violent act,
इसी को मैं split बोल रहा हूँ.
heartless
Split.
violent act.
Why do they do this? Why do they talk that much about origin, मतलब the original sin? क्योंकि मेरा आर्ग्यूमेंट है कि बिकॉज दे वांट टू क्रिएट ए स्प्लिट, मतलब
Yes,
स्प्लिट इज माय डॉक्ट्रिन हियर कि ह्यूमन बीइंग जो है ही इज वन विथ हिमसेल्फ और हरसेल्फ, लेकिन वहां से खुद उसको हटाने के लिए, तो आई आर्ग्यू इट दैट वे कि पावर, इफ यू थिंक ऑफ अब्राहमिज्म as some power, right there, it has some sort of a penis, ठीक है, and it creates a split within you so that it can penetrate into your psyche.
correct,
ठीक है, क्योंकि
correct.
अगर ह्यूमन बीइंग बोलेगा कि जैसे मैं जब स्कूल में था, स्कूल में मेरे बगल में, हमारा तो सरकारी स्कूल एंड देन बगल में एक चर्च था, तो वहां से ऐसे छोटे छोटे बुक दिया करते थे और हम लोग सरकारी स्कूल है तो लेके पढ़ते थे. वी यूज्ड टू मेक फन ऑफ दिस थियोलॉजी. यू वुड नॉट बिलीव, हमें कोई बाहर का कोई, क्योंकि छोटा मोटा टाउन है, हमें कोई एक्स्ट्रा एक्सपोजर भी नहीं है, एंड देन वी आर रीडिंग एंड वी आर मेकिंग फन कि भाई कैसा इंसान है यार, ये तो सूली पे चढ़ा के फिर भगवान बोल रहा है, राइट? Because we did not have a split within us. What Abrahamism or at least Christianism want to do, they want to create a split within you so that they can penetrate into your soul and your psyche. That is
No,
my theory
plus
of
you.
split. Or,
But you see, everything in their society, everything that they frame in their politics, in their
right.
diplomacy, in their philosophy, it all comes from this idea of
Philosophy,
original sin.
mnemonics, grammar, words, sentences.
Yes, it
If
all
you
comes from
try to
original
go
sin.
deep, you can see.
Exactly. Even their metrics. So when they analyze happiness index and all, everything comes from this idea of original sin. Like you can frame
Right.
this is sinful, this is non-sinful. Who gives authority to judge what is sinful and non-sinful? Myself. I am taking the place of the judge, the creator and the judge. I will frame what is sinful and what is not sinful, and I will
Right.
lay it out not for myself. Remember, it's not laid for myself. It's laid for everyone else, even though they don't know in advance that that this is sinful and this is not sinful. Same
Right.
like how their creator judged his creation without telling them in advance.
Right.
Suddenly they just throw it on you. Oh, this is what I've told, sinful and non-sinful. You have to be categorized in these two categories. Same
Right.
way they structured even jati. Same way they structured into our moral system. Same way they structured even our IPC. All our IPC laws are framed in the same concept. This idea
Exactly.
of sin and non-sinful, frame it in this binary, and we've been following this shit forever. Even
Right.
now we're following even Indian right wingers are
And
following
in
this
this
track.
framework, remember, in this framework, you lose the sense of duty.
Yeah.
Because see, because you matlab you give the framework of contract between human and the society,
Yes.
barter and trade, कि ये करोगे तो वो मिलेगा, ये करोगे वो मिलेगा, right? ये करोगे तो सही है, ये करोगे तो तुम सही नहीं हो. तो इसमें फिर क्या होता है, इसमें वही मतलब ह्यूमन बीइंग लूज द सेंस ऑफ ड्यूटी, एंड देन दे स्टार्ट आस्किंग, राइट, मतलब खुद को विक्टिमाइज करना, यार मैं तो प्लीज एक्सेप्ट मी इनटू योर कम्युनिटी, राइट, प्लीज एक्सेप्ट मी फॉर वट एवर आई एम, प्लीज कंसिडर माई राइट्स. तो फिर पूरा जो ड्यूटी वाला जो ऑर्डर है, ड्यूटी वाला जो जस्टिस सिस्टम है, ड्यूटी वाला जो मोरालिटी है, वहां से फिर राइट्स वाला मोरालिटी पे आ जाता है चीजें. और एक चीज जब राइट में आ जाता है, फिर उसको मैनिपुलेट करना और आसान होता है. लेट मी अगेन, वो जो हमने डिस्कस किए थे, कि जो जैसे अपना जो आजकल एनिमल राइट वगैरह जो हो रहा है, सो इसमें मैंने एक चीज लिखा था कि दे टॉक एंडलेसली अबाउट राइट्स because this barter and trade contract between man and society is the most fundamental manifestation of Abrahamism. Then they extend it human rights to animal rights, rights of rivers, mountains, trees, and it appears at first glance that there is a benevolent and wise way of treating Mother Nature. But the catch here is the cunning animal river right activists don't say this catch aloud because they already know it that trees, animals, rivers, mountains, they do not demand any barter and trade contracts. They simply fulfill their quote unquote duties. It is we humans who impose this framework of rights upon them, and in doing so, these beings who cannot accept or reject such a framework are bound to a foreign logic that they never needed. This is the imposition of power and control of the very activists on the object of their activism. Duties and not rights are natural. Duties are natural, rights are not natural. By framing the idea of natural rights, a split is created, one through which the mother nature can be exploited without hesitations. This imposition of rights is the very portal through which power intrudes into the dimension of a tree, river, mountain, or an animal can never access, the cunning dimension of colonization. It is the same trick that these Christian or Ashrafi invaders used to impose their rights upon our lands, our resources, and our people. Yes, this framework of rights is the framework of colonization, of nature, of societies, of cultures, of individuals. Imagine, before the Abrahamic constitution, common Hindus had no access to rights as defined by this imported framework. ये एक्सेप्ट ही नहीं करते कि हमारे कोई राइट्स पहले होता था, राइट? And when they finally did, it was only by humiliating and murdering their own civilizational self, signing a muhaida, a contract, with the very Muslim and Christians who partitioned our beloved mother India and perpetrated genocide. So Hindus had to sign the contract through Article 25 to 30, the so-called minority rights given to the so-called minorities of Islam and Christianity so that they can propagate into our land. If you cannot laugh out loud at the absurdity of this paradox, which stares at us every day through the omnipresent structure of the secular Indian state, then, my friend, you are simply not funny enough. ये मैंने लिखा था.
So, I think it is, you got straight to the point I was making. Like, I mean, 95% of that is basically that. The idea that they framed their entire, our entire worldview into sin and sinner and non-sinner, right? Which is exactly
And
how
they are the
animal
guarantor.
rights.
They are the guarantor. Yeah, they are
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
middlemen.
So, for example, like I'll give you, this is my biggest problem with dogs, this animal rights activists. See, if humans didn't exist, okay, let's assume humans didn't exist for a second, right? The same dogs would have to survive on their own, means they have to go and hunt for food. They may meet a tiger, they may meet a sambar, they may meet a bull, water buffalo, and that water buffalo will kill its ass, kill the dog's ass. The tiger will eat the dog, right? We are humans are guaranteeing the dog's survival. Essentially, human society is guaranteeing the dog's survival. Because human society is guaranteeing the dog's survival, it is duty of human society to control their numbers as well. In a natural, if you really are a true understanding of natural ecosystems require the predator or the top of the food chain to control the population of every other aspect of the tree. With the example, if you remove all predators from an ecosystem, the prey increases in such large numbers that they eat all the plants, and they turn the land barren, which causes the prey to die, and which causes the entire ecosystem to collapse. Right, which is what is happening with our current urban ecosystems. The number of dogs are growing astronomically for the space that they have, because you're not reducing their numbers. We have to reduce their number. The reduction of numbers is a requirement. And if at some point your reduction of numbers has not happened, you have to treat them as a pest species. So you have to remove their. I love dogs. I adore dogs beyond anything. But you have to reduce the number so the majority of dogs that you're going to leave alive can survive the ecosystem. These people don't seem to understand that basic concept. You are making all dogs this true socialism. This is what socialism does. You're by helping everyone with the same standard, you're making everyone poor. Or in the same, you're
Right.
helping all dogs multiply, you're making all dogs suffer with less food in the long term.
Right.
Because there's a limited amount of food and resources you can provide all dogs. You don't even
Right.
understand. At some point, you will have not enough food to provide. The dogs are attacking each other and us, and the numbers will drop because nature doesn't care about your emotions. It will make adjustments for it on its own.
Right.
And I don't want the dog. Tomorrow, people start going hunting dogs to raise their populations. That's way more cruel fate
Right.
than being humanely put down with someone who loves them on their side. Just imagine if you put down the animals with someone who loves you. Your last thoughts are with someone calmly keeping you in a comfortable place, and the person loves you. But this is it go to the point that people are hunting dogs. I don't like people all these videos of people beating up dogs. It hurts my soul,
Mhm.
right? Because I don't like those people either. But your solutions are untenable, and they're definitely
Right.
not for the benefit of the dogs in a larger sense. Same thing, again, framing a sinner and non-sinner. So with the way animal rights activists frame it is anyone who has any criticism of any idea of reducing number of dogs is a sinner,
Right.
hence
Right.
not an animal
क्योंकि
lover.
उनका एनिमल राइट्स वो इम्पोज करते हैं ऑन द एनिमल बिकॉज एनिमल कैन नॉट स्पीक फॉर देमसेल्व्स और देयर राइट दे कैन स्पीक फॉर देयर
Exactly,
गेन नॉट फॉर
it
देयर
gives them
राइट
authority.
and it gives them authority exactly
Gives them
that's what
authority.
they
It is,
want huh.
exactly. It is ultimately that.
Basically they become the what do you call it the apostles right they become the
Same thing.
saints yeah
When I've been an environmental, like a very environmentalist person all my life. So, for example, even I at home, I'll wash. So when I get bags, packets, or whatever, and there's food in it, I'll wash it with water. Little water. I'll put little water, but I'll put wash, clean it. So the next, the person where the trash goes, the recycled trash, that person doesn't have to waste money, water cleaning it.
right
He can just put it in the pile, and it'll reduce the amount of work. The person at that end has to do less work. He doesn't have to deal with my dirty food, right, in the plastic packet, and it helps the environment long term, right? But I'm deviating. But I was an
but
environmental person.
you see what
But
Virtuality is writing but
even
even if
humans do exist
humans cats god they still are god I mean as per them
because
they are the
they
they are
perceive
the
they perceive
self-righteous
themselves as
animal
God.
right
No, so I'm talking about even environmentalism. For example, I'm an environmentally conscious person. Okay, I'm pro environmentalism. I do not support the right wing in their attitude towards their environment. And I'm more like say J.S. Deepak. J.S. Deepak is the only right winger I've seen till now who understands that dharma goes with environmentalism. But most of the right wingers in India are like, no, how can we care about? We don't care about the environment. Let us just take whatever we want, right? Make a mess, throw trash. Like I was watching this video of some person sticking Hanuman stickers on Ganesh stickers on a bike, the plastic sticker, and throwing trash everywhere. Like that's all the Bhudevi. The land you walk on is Bhudevi, right?
right
Bhudevi is consort of Vishnu. You don't
right
respect Bhudevi and you talk about dharma, like literally.
right
And at least the Vaishnavites in our society should understand. You're
right
messing up Bhudevi.
right
They all they go watch Mahavatar Nrsimha. They'll watch. Oh, see how Varaha Avatar saved Bhudevi. They'll come home and throw their trash on the floor. They'll go through on some thing. They'll pee random place. Like I mean, peeing is I understand it's natural, but other things, creating trash, creating plastic. I mean, where is your dharmic value?
right
If you believe sincerely in dharma, at least follow that, right? So,
right
what I was saying about environmental, where I got sidetracked.
No,
Environmentalism.
no. So I would take this opportunity to say to
Sorry.
Vaishali's last message, just that cats are the supreme commander, right? So yeah, because we have been a humble civilization. We have called cats as Bagher Masi, Mossy of the tiger, right? We have been a little shy historically to accept cats as the supreme leader of animal civilization. So we call them Mossy of tiger.
Array, the Egyptians used to pray to them. Egyptians
Huh?
used to pray to the cats.
Right, right, right. Right. Cats is also the
Okay.
Bahan of षष्ठी, राइट? दुर्गा का जो षष्ठी अवतार है हमारे
Yeah,
उधर होता है.
I got it.
हाँ.
So actually, to give a bit of credence to the point made by Anand, correct? So I'm showing you this picture of a Chundi Puja, Ma Durga,
हाँ.
you can say. So, like in the ancient tradition times, correct? The idols were made of natural material. They were not
Yeah.
plastic, paint, and all those things. So if you see this specific thing here, correct? So this is made absolutely of tree leaves, like trees, wood, flowers. So if you immerse this, it will get biodegradable. It's all 100% biodegradable.
Yes.
So when we say that we like Sanatan Dharma is about nature worship, and we never think in our dreams of also harming nature. So we are taking from nature and giving back to nature. So
Yes.
this is something that I think it needs to be talked about. But the ancient tradition,
You take the making of sculpture. See, the problem with us is everything is performative. There is one prediction about Kalki Yuga, right? That people will do performative. They will do things without understanding why they do it. So when you have murti, you do it out of love. What is happening right now is people is buying a murti for Visarjan. Your job is to make the murti out of love, out of devotion.
Right.
That's where devotion comes from. Why the Buddhists have more like authority in saying this? Because they build the mandala out of love, and then they wash it away. It's the same thing. Why the Buddhists have literally taken the things that Hindus have, and we are not doing it. They're letting the Buddhists do all that, and they're getting all the credit, right? Like your job is to build with devotion, build the murti, put your heart into it, and then as a form of renunciation, your love with detachment. Again, is teaching you the fundamental principles of dharma. Detachment. Do something out of detachment. You're doing this, you're doing love, but you're also detaching from the consequence of, because the consequence ultimately will go into the water and it'll dissipate. All your hard work will dissipate. But you did it at that moment in time because of your love.
Right.
And then you do it. Visarjan is for that only, to return it back to the universe. It is teaching you ideas, complex ideas about nothing is permanent. Your sharir is not permanent. Literally, the sharir is disappearing back to Brahman. I mean, this is what you
Right.
parents should be teaching. Not buying one thing, do puja, and then put in the water, and then just throw some ceramic thing. That's not the duty. Fundamentally, it's a problem. No, if everything is monetary, going to biggest pandal, biggest statue with gold, and that is not what Hinduism is about. Dharma is about. They do it, but then do it in such a way that you know that's going to be impermanent. It's not to make money. From what I can see, it's all about making money. My opinion, it's all about making money for during the religious times. So I understand your point of view, but
okay, we have a question from Varun, and this is a sarcastic comment, so don't take it literally. Okay.
Which question?
No, this question from Boishalidi. Which nature, Mother Nature or the nature journal with
So maybe
impact
it was a
factor?
pun. It was a
Yeah,
pun.
yeah, it was it was a fun. Okay, we have a question from Varun, Gautam Varun. Question for Anand. I understand your point and JSD about environmental, but what you are saying about protecting nature is a privilege affordable to developed countries, not third world feudal country.
No, I agree. I am not disagreeing. I completely agree that for development of our third world feudal country, you need some amount of infusion of fossil fuels. So I'm saying true ecological balance comes from protecting people who have difficulty with their poverty, right? You help them out with gas cylinders and stuff. That all makes sense. Natural gas. But I'm talking about the more philosophical, dharmic sense of your, like, if at least what you can do in your life. There's a little bit that you can do in your life to reduce your impact. It may not be much, but with 1.5 billion people, if we contribute, right? So A poor person doesn't need to do anything extra to not throw trash. He's not going to lose anything. Rich person does not do anything to not make a mess when he's traveling. Like so many rich people I've seen, nice big car, they will throw trash out of the window. Like I can understand throwing a banana peel, throwing whatever, some perishable thing out of the window. I can understand. Okay, so it's unsightly, fine. But you're throwing things that are non-perishables out your window, right? At the same time, you have a giant tilak. First time, the same thing, you have a giant angry Hanuman on your piece on your car, right? I'm not understand that thing. It takes no effort to keep it in your car, go to the destination, put it in a dustbin where it can be collected and thrown. It takes no effort. What do you lose? I believe it's an addiction. We are addicted to throwing trash everywhere. Because I observe it's like they can't help themselves. I will tell the person, they will, while in front of me, when I'm telling them, they will throw on the ground. They will throw in front of me like this. They can't help. It's like an invisible force is forcing their hand down to throw on the trash on the ground. I'm not joking. I really think it's an addiction, and we need to treat it like a pandemic. Honestly, to me, that is the only way to treat it. You treat it like a psychological pandemic in India.
Okay, I think the bottom of the question is a little bit misdirected. See, when you are talking about we cannot afford environmental things because we have to make economic progress, we are fundamentally missing the point. Missing the point is what you will do with your, let's say, 100 crore rupees that you have earned from doing factories and all those things. If you cannot breathe clean air, if you cannot have clean water, what is the use of those 100 crore rupees if you don't have clean water, proper food, and clean air? So we are again like thinking. So our thinking has become Abrahamic. I don't know for what reason. Correct. We are looking at the all extremes. Okay. I want capitalism, and I will destroy everything. I will pollute water, pollute air, pollute everything. Okay, and then I will be rich. We have to fundamentally come out of this Abrahamic thinking. We have been 1,000 years of civilization where we have incorporated nature. We were Bharat at what time was 40% of world GDP. Correct. We were industrial people at that time. Did that mean that we were destroying nature at that time? No, we were not doing that. Correct. We were taking care of nature, also having economic growth. Why can't we find a simple solution, or maybe a little bit complex solution, to have a better life? You don't need $1 billion to have a better life. Why this extremities about it? Yeah, Bijeet.
No, I mean, my take on this is that it is possible for all countries, irrespective of their economic status. So I agree. And I mean, cleanliness is a very much, I mean, it's not that it is alien to Hinduism or it is alien to Hindu concept. Matlab, the idea of Lakshmi, for example, right? कि उसी के पास सौभाग्य मतलब लाख आता है, उसका कर्म अच्छा होता है, जहाँ लक्ष्मी बसते हैं, जहाँ लक्ष्मी बसते हैं वो थोड़ा साफ सुथरा होता है, वो पवित्र होता है, राइट, वो जगह. सो ये जो साफ सुथरा एटीट्यूड, उसके साथ जो पायसनेस को जोड़ना, दैट सॉर्ट ऑफ युक्ति इज एक्चुअली हिंदू युक्ति. तो मुझे आई हैव सी इन बॉम्बे, you know, matlab, obviously Indian cities, they are rotting and all these things, potholes, everything. But if you roam around, let's say a Hindu slum against, let's say, a slum, Muslim slum, right? You will clearly see the difference. मतलब जो हिंदू स्लम्स होते हैं वहाँ ढंग से झाड़ू मारते हैं, रास्ता साफ है, वो रास्ते में ही झाड़ू मारते हैं, रास्ता इज राइट इन फ्रंट ऑफ द हाउस, राइट, और हाउस भी छोटा सा ही है. एंड यू विल सी अ सर्टेन, मतलब आप अगर इधर बस्ती में जाओगे आपको क्लीनलीनेस दिखेगा. ऐसा नहीं, वो गरीब है, जगह कम है, रह रहे हैं, बट ओवरऑल हाँ, मतलब आई थिंक इंडिया का जो बिग सिटीज में या फिर इंडियन विलेजेस में आप चले जाओ, मतलब सारे विलेजेस क्लीन होते हैं यार, आपको डर्टी विलेज दिखेगा ही नहीं इंडिया में. ठीक है,
No, but that's also
जहाँ तक
happening
मैं
now. That's also
आई
happening.
थिंक, हाँ मतलब इंडिया का जो, मुझे लगता है कि इंडिया का जो सिटी में जो डर्ट है, पॉटहोल है, दिस इज अ ब्यूरोक्रेटिक प्रॉब्लम, दिस इज अ
No,
प्रॉब्लम
no,
विद
no,
द
no. I think no, I disagree. I'll tell you what is the problem.
पॉलिसी,
The problem
ब्यूरोक्रेसी,
is
ढंग से म्यूनिसिपैलिटी चलाते
no,
नहीं
no,
है।
no, no. The
मुझे
reason why, no, no, I'll tell you why I disagree with you. See, the reason why I disagree with you is because majority of the time, the villagers used to have a lot of perishable items that they used to use. Majority. If you look historically, everything was perishable. Everything was reusable. They will use the plantain leaves for everything. They will use everything. Basically, clay pots. Everything is perishable. So even if they throw trash wherever they want, it perishes in like this, gets destroyed in like a week or 2 weeks time. It returns to the soil, returns to the land. You don't see it. If you notice very interestingly in India, with the advent of expansion of plastic materials, plastic and synthetic materials, because everyone is using, and they used to throwing anything anywhere. I'm telling you, this idea is still there. The idea of throwing things wherever you want is a very Indian thing, unfortunately. We have to accept this reality. Not understanding this place is where things should be thrown. And
जैसे
the
प्लास्टिक का भी
structure is
बात
not
आता है,
good.
प्लास्टिक में भी काफी टाइम क्या होता है, मतलब जैसे आई थिंक कि इंडिया के विलेज के सबकॉन्शियस में ही, कौन सी चीज ऑर्गेनिक है, कौन सी चीज इनऑर्गेनिक है, इसका सेंस है। मैं इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ क्योंकि काफी टाइम इंडियन विलेजेस में, इन प्रोबेबली ऑल द विलेजेस, यू विल सी सम गोबर गैस का प्लांट होता है। बेसिकली जो कावडंग होता है उससे
Yeah, yeah.
गैस का एक प्लांट बनाते हैं। नाउ व्हेन यू मेक दैट काइंड ऑफ प्लांट ना, तो उसमें ऑब्वियसली वो सेंस आपको रहना चाहिए, मतलब होता है इन जनरल कि कौन सा प्लास्टिक से भर के ला रहे हो, प्लास्टिक कौन सी जगह डिस्पोज, बिकॉज मतलब वहां पे वो नेसेसिटी है कि, इसलिए शायद मुझे लगता है कि कुछ हद तक अब मतलब इंडियन विलेजेस में आपको क्लीनलीनेस दिखेगा। सिटीज में तो लोगों ने वही ना, लोगों ने आउटसोर्स कर दिया है म्यूनिसिपैलिटी को। इंडिया में तब भी विलेज में लोग झाड़ू पोछा मारते हैं, थोड़ा वही अल्पना वाल्पना लगाते हैं, पूजा वूजा के लिए जरूरी होता है कि आप साफ सुथरा रहो। लेकिन इंडिया में जैसे वो आउटसोर्स कर दिया म्यूनिसिपैलिटी को सिटीज में, तो इसलिए आई थिंक सिटीज की हालत और भी खराब है। ये तो एक रीजन है।
Okay, we are going to finish this discussion in about 10 minutes. So let's take a few questions.
राइट
So, okay, so about pollution, the reason pollution during 19th and 20th century wasn't stopped because the court gave free pass to big companies for greater good. Companies which do that shall be sued. Okay, that is fine. But anyway, correct. Environment is only not a court's concern. Environmental protection is also your concern, because if the environment is polluted, forget about court. You cannot breathe clean air. Okay, so we have to take ownership. Okay, if you're going to outsource everything, every responsibility, duties to courts and government, then what you will do?
So where is the dharma in that? That's my point. I don't understand I don't get this concept. This dichotomy of, you say you're a dharmic, you're Hindu, you're dharmic, you're proud of Sanatana, but at the same time you're like, I will outsource all my duty to someone else. Like all my duty, everything. I literally will throw trash wherever I want. Someone else has to pick it up. I will mutofy wherever I want. Someone else has to pick it up. Look at the Nepalis. The Nepalis have more dharma than we have. They made a mess and they cleaned it up themselves. They're like, come, we come. Let's all come together and clean up. We made such a mess. Let's clean it up. Like, वो नहीं है India में. Like, they all, everyone say, oh, India has its perfect law and order. The state is very stable. I'm like, yes, that's true. But you've lost something else. You lost the idea of community. You never come together to do anything. Someone has to, like some random white person has to come to walk through Delhi and say, or walk through Bangalore and say, oh, this place is not working properly. Even then, no one comes and they say, oh, the state is like, oh shit, I may get embarrassed. So let me send these rag pickers and these sweepers that we have hired to clean the place. Like that is the reaction. Right? And then tomorrow it will get dirty again because they won't care. Again, the state is doing everything.
Okay. Last point I will to discuss, and then we will wind up our today's session. It was a really good session. So thank you to Anand and Vijitha both. So Anand, I would like to like define to you. See, white nationalist, collectivist, and populist, not right wing. See, we have to, as a Indic civilizational ambassadors, if I say, we have to take control of the language. Nationalism, the way you see in the context of European nationalism, we have to divert from that concept, because that concept itself is diversionary.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
creates again other, like myself and other. Okay. So this nationalism of European nationalism, we don't have to define ourselves in that specific language. Okay.
We don't have.
Our correct. So and generally, what will happen is that when we see nationalism, we are going to go back to and frame our nationalism in the European context. That
No.
we have to guard against. Correct. Our
Yes, yes, agree.
nationalism is not against any other panth or group, that okay, this land belongs to me, so I will live here, and everybody else would be wiped out. That is not our nationalism, and that is
No, that's
something which is, go ahead.
so that is what I'm saying. The reason I frame the KKK specifically as white nationalists. They're not. I mean, I mean, again, that's white nationalists because they use the term themselves, and specific collectivists because they define the collectivism that they want. Like they've defined a certain. Like for example, they didn't allow Irish. They didn't allow Italians. But by today's standards, they're also white, right? The KKK were anti those people also, right? So same way they do. Many KKSX may not want Catholics, may not want Mormon. Like there's another reason why Mormons and Catholics are out of the so-called Anglican nationalist fold. They tend to be on the sidelines. They do participate once in a while, but they are on the sidelines. Because fundamentally, if you look at Europe's nationalism was defined by ethnic lines, not principles, not these people. These as another very funny thing, these MAGA guys go around saying in America was a Judeo-Christian state. Like ask them to define the principles of Judeo-Christian state, they will not be able to define it because they don't know. Because America was not based on Judeo-Christian principles, Christian principles. It is based on what do you call it, Enlightenment principles. It is based on Freemason principles. There's a reason their constitution is so easy. It allows for freedom of speech. If you frame it on Judeo-Christian principles, freedom of speech is unacceptable. Heresy is the norm. Heresy is the requirement of the state to enforce. Like you have to enforce heresy. You cannot say anything about the Lord God or Jesus in a Judeo principle Christian country. You cannot. The enlightenment principles are one that broke that. They literally said we cannot live. Look at Poland. What's happening in Poland right now? They're enforcing Christian Sharia. They go around telling women what pants, how long the pants should be, how much, what kind of shirt. Literally, they're doing it in Poland, by the way, right now. Okay, the Christian right is getting stronger there. Right? So this idea that the Western world is framed on Judeo-Christian principles, and the problem is a lot of brown people just pander. Like Vivek Ramaswamy go and say, yes, I believe that America is on Judeo-Christian principles. The problem is the left doesn't know how to debate them. The left in the US, the stupid people in the US, don't know how to debate him, don't know how to call him out. Either on that shit or on the environmental shit that he says, the nonsense he says. I agree with him on a lot of things, but the environmental stuff he says is nonsense. Same way he says, "Oh, the Hindus believe in one God, and what's our principles align?" And like nonsense. They don't align. The fundamental principles
We
of
believe in
Hinduism not
values,
like
not
those
on.
of
I mean, to us, values are fundamental than gods. For them, gods are fundamentals, and
no
God
God.
is fundamental, and values actually emanates from the God.
Exactly.
Okay. Today we are going to wind up a discussion, and last question answer I will give to. So where is my saffron t-shirt that has gone for a washing? So it will be back tomorrow. But before we wind up for today, let me share to the audience. Tomorrow we have a very interesting topic to talk about. Okay. So tomorrow around 8 p.m. IST. Tomorrow we are going to talk about Hindu Rashtra identity or threat. So this is going to be an interesting topic where we will have Dr. Kaushik Gangopadhyay and Mr. Dipankar Chakraborty to discuss. There's an article written on Organizer. So based on that, we have created this podcast to actually deliberate and understand the concept of Hindu Rashtra, what it entails in terms of politics, in terms of social things, in terms of religious things. So do tune in tomorrow for this very interesting podcast we will have, where we will discuss in detail the concept of Hindu Rashtra.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Hey, and let me just say, I'm not a guest. I just come here to chit chat because I like to talk a lot. The guests are the one.
No, you have become permanent guest.
Yes.
I love to chit chat a lot. Okay, dude. I'm not any.
So we are the speaker, and by the very definition of guest, you are the guest. You are the only
Names.
guest here, right?
Okay, that way. That is true. That is true.
See, I am the universal host.
No, because
Okay.
it is very rare to get on daily life. I do have chit chat with my parents and stuff, but even then they like very limited in what they wanted to have a conversation with about, right? And my colleagues don't like if you work colleagues, who's going to chit chat with work colleagues on this? And that's why my friends are all like scattered all over this. So you guys are cool to chit chat about philosophical topics and stuff. So and
No,
it is
I mean,
Get-
whatever we are
get-
discussing, these are apparently very controversial topics. You just imagine these are controversial. I don't understand what controversy it can lead to, other than I don't know, diminishing the imperialism of these Abrahamic
That's why we
ideologies.
do. That's why we do 2 hour podcast. Nobody listens to. So you can
No,
get away with it.
but I must make a disclaimer. I am not any specialist in anything. All of these are whatever little bit I've read here and there, and what I've generated through my thought, what I'm thinking about. None of my thing can be taken as authority. Please verify whatever
No,
I'm
no,
saying. Everything I'm
nobody
saying
is authority here. We are just discussing, sharing our point of view. Correct? Nor I am authority. No, nobody is authority here. Everybody is here
I
to
mean,
free.
he's a doctor. I'm not even a doctor. Like
No,
literally,
I am
there's a
doctor in
authority right there.
physics. I mean, I am not a
It
doctor in
doesn't
these
matter.
topics.
Doesn't matter. My sister is a doctor also. Like you guys are doctors, very high level people now already.
No, I am not an expert in. We just do the chit chat. I mean, over a spectrum of topics. From our
Yeah,
point of view, definitely
and this
this channel has its own point of view,
Hmm.
and you also sort of have a, I don't know, some sort of resonance with I hope, and so that's why we chit chat, right? Yeah. So Bhupendra, you are saying something.
Yeah, so this book, we have interviewed the author today. So the podcast will be coming. So this is our first recorded podcast we have done. So this book, we have talked to the author. Really interesting book. And I think you will be finding some good conversations on this book that I had recorded today. So it will be coming soon.
Cool.
Check it out.
Okay, thank you. Jai Shri Ram.
Thank you.
Vande
Thanks a
Mataram.
lot.
Namaskar.
Vande Mataram. Good night.